The Rings of Power Season 2, a big, shiny, boring mess. If The Rings of Power Season 2 aimed to be a bloated, directionless CGI extravaganza, congratulations, it nailed it. Unfortunately, while it's still visually impressive, it feels like watching a 10-hour screensaver, with the story crawling at a snail's pace, and the characters even more forgettable than before. So, without further ado, let's dive into the disaster with some slightly updated names for the cast. The plot. Did anything actually happen? Once again, the show dazzles with stunning vistas and impossibly expensive CGI that makes you wonder if they spent more on sweeping landscape shots than on writers. The problem? Absolutely nothing significant seems to happen. It feels like they're stretching out the Second Age into eternity, hoping the audience won't notice that most of the story could have been packed into 2 episodes. You'll find yourself asking questions like, wait, didn't we already see this slow-motion horse ride? Or, why does it feel like these people are just standing around waiting for the plot to show up? But sadly, much like Sauron's screen time, the plot remains a no-show for the majority of the season. The characters. Welcome back, Galadriel and friends. Galadriel, our eternally angry elf heroine, is back, once again stomping through the plot like a bulldozer in plate armor. Despite her millennia of wisdom, Galadriel still can't make a decision without scowling dramatically at the horizon. Her character development? Non-existent. She's still hell-bent on revenge, but somehow manages to be both overconfident and incredibly dense. By episode 8, you'll be wishing she'd take a long vacation in Valinor. Elrond continues to charm us with his bad decisions and inability to do anything remotely elven-like. For someone who's supposed to become a wise and powerful leader, he spends most of Season 2 either moping or talking about rocks. Yes, rocks. His bromance with Durin, while sweet, can only carry so much weight when the rest of his storyline involves long-winded monologues about duty and destiny. Halbrandwagon. Ah yes, Sauron. Sorry, I mean Halbrandwagon, the most obvious bad guy ever. Despite his mysterious arc, everyone and their orc knew he was Sauron by episode 2 of last season. And in Season 2, he spends most of his time smirking and acting suspicious, but somehow nobody catches on. It's like watching a supervillain give a TED Talk about world domination, and everyone just nods along. Our future king, who will one day fail spectacularly at destroying the One Ring, spends most of this season, well, doing nothing of note. Isildur wanders around aimlessly, acting like he has a big role to play, but never quite getting there. By the end of the season, he's still just a whiny teenager who you'd never trust with the fate of Middle-earth. Numenor. The Númenóreans. The show tries to make Numenor feel important, but these characters are so dull that even the ocean surrounding their island looks more interesting. They spend the entire season bickering about politics, which somehow feels even less engaging than real-world elections. By the time Numenor gets any action, you've already checked out. Dialogue. Cringe on repeat. The dialogue continues to be as stilted and cheesy as ever. Every line sounds like it's been pulled from a random fantasy phrase generator. Expect lots of speeches about destiny and darkness rising, but none of it has any emotional weight. Instead, it comes off as forced, with zero sense of humor or self-awareness. There's also a serious case of talking over doing. Characters will spend entire episodes debating obvious choices like whether to help fight against an evil overlord, but the tension is non-existent because we already know how it ends. Can we get a little more action and a little less monologuing? Pacing, like watching Ents have a race. If you thought Season 1 dragged, Season 2 feels like someone hit the pause button, then forgot to press play. The pacing is glacial. Entire episodes pass where you're left wondering what, if anything, was achieved. At this rate, we might get to the forging of the actual One Ring by Season 15. Final thoughts. All that glitters ain't mithril. Season 2 of The Rings of Power is a massive, shiny disappointment. It has all the budget in the world, but none of the heart or urgency that made Tolkien's works timeless. While it's still gorgeous to look at, the characters remain flat, the plot is non-existent, and the dialogue is painful. For anyone hoping the show would course correct after its shaky start, prepare to be let down. It's an epic failure in every sense, except the budget.